Alright, so my last video was talking about one thing I would change in Lost Ark. I looked through the comments of what you guys said, and by far the most common theme is a roster reduction or a homework reduction. I yield, you guys are right. I have lost and I am still losing static members because of this. You know it, I know it, we all know it. The progression of this game is just too demanding on either your time or money or even both. My last static member to quit debated quitting or just doing a roster reduction on his own. But he overall came to the conclusion that even if he went down to 2 characters, he wouldn't be able to progress properly, and to be honest, he's probably right. If there is one thing true about every single player, it's that one day we will quit, we will stop playing the game. But the overall design of this game and the progression expedites this process. And that's why a roster reduction would not only slow this down, but make the game more approachable and more appealing to newer players. When you attach words like job and homework to the game, that's just not good. Let's be honest, that's not going to make new players start running into the game thinking, oh man, I really want this unpaid job, I really want to do homework. So not only are we losing like the old guard, the older players, but we're not even getting that many newer players. And you kind of need a lot of players to, make an MMO feel like an MMO. So I want to talk about various roster and fatigue related topics, along with just kind of my vision for what a roster reduction would mean. But first, I want to say that I know it's very demotivating to try to talk about change when you're playing a Western port of a Korean pay-to-win game. It's like a game of telephone where the message and whatever is being said as feedback probably changes by the time it gets over to Smilegate. And even if the right message does go through, they're probably going to be more focused on what would be best for the Korean audience, not us. But I'm here to say that you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Change starts with the consumer. If you don't buy what they're selling, they gotta change what they sell. That's why people say vote with your wallet. I've spent over 7 years at a AAA publisher. I can easily say that there are a lot of people inside that really do look out at the community and look for things that people want to get changed, problems that they're having. I even worked with an overseas team in China, and that was pretty rough too. Like, I'm so invested in wanting change in Lost Ark that I even applied for jobs at Amazon's, but, well, they gay-kept my ass.
So actually we have a little surprise update here. Someone decided to put a NA thread up on KRInven, talking about kind of the main problems and issues that people are experiencing over here in the West. It is getting a lot of views and a lot of interaction, so hopefully this helps get a little more visibility on the current state of our situation over to Smilegate. It is hopium, but I'll take what I can get.
So I don't think really we need to talk about design that much. If you're watching this video, you probably already know. This game is just designed around FOMO. They want you to swipe or play your 6-man roster, and even if you do swipe, you're probably still playing that 6-man roster quite a bit. As mentioned in Kadi's recent Elfire video, we are at the point of the game where you have to rely on ults to start pushing. Even though we have a rested system, since the progression is so bad, most people don't actually use it. It's mostly there's like a, yeah, look, we care, you have rested, you don't have to play every day, but also it's more like an illusion of choice at this point. If you want to keep up, you can't do rested. So your only other options is either to give AGS money or give it to your local fisherman. But people have daily things. They gotta do Chaos, Guardians, Una's, World events. They gotta do their weekly quests. They gotta do their weekly raids. All of which feels mandatory if they want to keep on progressing and they want to keep up. Which is why we call things homework and job. It's to the point where when people are doing the raids, they're not even focused on the raid. They're thinking about the raid 5 raids ahead. Now, Smilegate has made attempts to reduce fatigue, but it's overall a band-aid for a bullet wound. When it comes to daily content, the overwhelming majority of the player base doesn't really enjoy this. Most people play this game solely for the raiding, and they barely address daily content. They reduced Guardian raids to being 1, and also they did make Chaos Dungeons go a little bit faster. But now we're to the point where a large part of the community is just Chaos botting. Even people who got vetted and cleared for the Theamine first raid, they're Chaos spotters. There have been people exposing finding them in that Discord for Chaos spotting. Do they get punished? No. So more people are starting to Chaos spot. As somebody who actually does their Chaos dungeon, I feel like I'm sitting in the Sneeko chair. So at this point, I wouldn't be against them adding an auto battler to Chaos dungeon. Now they put more of their focus into changes in raids, and I do agree with these changes, but I do think that daily content overall is the bigger killer. So overall, they've been going for a gate reduction. They've removed gates on old ones, and they're not putting as many gates on newer content. Daemine is kind of like the second coming of Brawl. Like, it's just creating so much burnout, and a lot of it I think is just even getting there as opposed to the content itself. But their overall change in the design now is that in the final 3 raids, they want 1 harder raid and 2 easier raids. And I think that's good. In KR right now, Daemine's the hard one. Echidna's a 2 gate, doesn't take that long, and Behemoth is like a 1 gate, 10-minute fight, it looks like. I think the real problem for a lot of people is just actually getting to be able to experience these raids as opposed to the raids themselves. Because I think overall people are happy with the raids, they're just not happy with everything they had to do the raids, which is going to be a lot of the daily content. Now the only way to really keep the game design and flow the same is really just to do a roster reduction. A lot of people in the comments really said that they wanted to play a single character, they just wanted to focus on their main. I don't think one character would be viable with this overall design of having most of your content being limited. The allure of MMOs is generally the infinite farm that you always have to do. There's always something for you to work on, but with Lost Ark, a lot of your things you have daily and weekly limits to do, which is how they introduce alts. In a one character situation, everybody's going to raid on a reset night, and Party Finder is just going to be dead for the other 6 days of the week. But I think cutting the roster in half, cutting it down to 3 would actually make some really good change to the game. Because all that content that you felt obligated to do that you were missing out on if you didn't do it is now cut in half. I still think 3 characters is a lot of content and a lot of things to do, and for those who still want to play even less, they are less punished for not playing 2 extra characters as opposed to 5 extra characters. This would also require some reworks to the numbers, because now your average player is going to be earning less gold and materials. But now we do encounter the issue of there are people who enjoy the 6-man roster and they're happy the way it was. They don't want to go down. So to address the counterpoint that people say is that, man, if you don't want to play 6 characters, just play 1, it's fine. That's probably advice from somebody who is playing 6 characters. But overall, when you are underplaying your roster limit, you're feeling FOMO of all the gold you're missing out on. And on the flip side, when you overplay your roster limit, now you're worried about just wasting resources on characters that aren't gold generators. Both are extremely true. And this is where I started to think about a roster catch-up mechanic. Truthfully, it's pretty much just like how we had the old honing nerfs in your stronghold, but taking it up a notch. It used to be once you got to a certain item level that you could buy a honing reduction basically in your stronghold. I think they need to bring that back and also just make it even better. I think this kind of nerf should be available at pretty much every difficulty breakpoint and rating. But on top of that, I think it actually should compound to be a little bit more for the more characters you have at this breakpoint. So for example, your third character is going to have an easier time theoretically honing than your second, because that second character getting up to 1620 or whatever would have made the honing process a little easier, a little cheaper. And overall, this system would be designed to kind of reward players for who actually want to play alts for playing alts. They actually want to play them for fun as opposed to playing things as just a gold generator. It would make alting more accessible and overall reward people who want to play more. You can apply this to Transcendence as well. A little gold reduction if you had something done. It'd probably still need a little bit more tweaks, along with elixirs that would need a lot of tweaks because min-maxing. And also I think a 3-man roster, the gem system wouldn't be that bad. So a roster reduction would overall just increase the kind of work-life balance for the better for the Lost Ark players. Not only would it relieve the pressure outside the game, but I think it'd actually make the game better on the inside as well. With less raids, there's going to be less pressure to kind of speedrun them. But on top of that, when you have less characters to funnel your resources to, those characters are just going to be stronger. Like your roster 3 is definitely going to be stronger than your roster 6. It still wouldn't fix gatekeeping because people still are going to want to have fast runs, and effectively if the average power players goes up, you're just going to move the bar up of what people want for the bare minimal. But I think people will care a little bit less since everybody's just going to be more powerful. So I do have one concern, and I'm going to use myself as an example. In my roster 6, I have 1 support. If I have to tone that down to a roster 3, that support is getting smoked, and I think a lot of people would do the same. So the support shortage for that time might be a little rough for a while. But just like my view on the class change ticket, I don't think you should stop yourself from doing something good for the long term of the game because you have a short term fear. It should be up to Smilegate to decide how to change classes to be more appealing for people, which in this scenario is making supports feel more like something people want to play as opposed to something people have to play. And that's really about it. Between the Hellfire, the responses I got to my last video, and overall the loss of my static members, it just felt like a good time to talk about the benefits of a roster reduction and how it could help the game and community. I do believe that the majority of the community is just going to be happier with a roster reduction. And let's be honest, the people who aren't happy with it, who will still want to play more, these people are super addicted and they're not going to stop. They're not going anywhere, so you can make the change for the better of the game. And that's really about all I got. So thanks for watching, like and sub, and never stop yapping if you want change. No matter how hopeless it may seem, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take.